Looking at the media, podcasts and news articles, it seems like intermittent fasting is one of the best ways to get in shape and be healthy.
A trendy new weight loss method has been getting a lot of buzz lately, and it is called intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting.
What if I told you that breakfast being the most important meal of the day was wrong?
Intermittent fasting has really changed my life.
I did intermittent fasting for 7 years, but I stopped since learning it was detrimental to my health. 4 reasons which I'll share in this video. I did the popular 16-8 protocol, and I did it because I'd seen videos, read books and listened to podcasts explaining the benefits of intermittent fasting. So when I had a number of health tests, I was shocked that some of the results came back showing that intermittent fasting wasn't good for my health. When I was intermittent fasting, I'd eat my first meal at 11 a.m. By skipping a meal in the morning, my body was missing the fuel and, more importantly, the protein it needed to maintain my muscle mass. With no food inside me, my body was in a catabolic state, meaning it was breaking down body fat for energy, which sounds like a good thing, but it was also breaking down muscle. And maintaining muscle is so important for our health, especially as we get older and especially for women over 40. The health tests that I had showed that I was skinny fat, meaning I had a high body fat and low muscle mass, which isn't a healthy combination. And although intermittent fasting is said to be good for losing weight and potentially losing fat, it's not ideal for someone like me who had a low muscle mass. I was also exercising in the morning with no food. I had it in my head that doing this would make me burn more body fat, but that's totally not true. Doing fasted exercise does not burn more fat than doing exercise after eating. In fact, in some cases, it can encourage the body to store fat, but I'll talk about that in reason 2. This combination of intermittent fasting and exercising with no food, I was pushing my body further into a catabolic state and losing precious muscle. And it's the issue I see when reading people's success stories about intermittent fasting.
I've been doing this for about 1.5 years. I've lost 30 pounds.
I went from 245 pounds. I'm currently 189 pounds.
I've lost 10 pounds and 3 inches in my waist.
And don't get me wrong, it's fantastic that these people lost that excess body weight, but we have to bear in mind losing weight isn't just about a number on the weighing scales. It's a mixture of fat, muscle and even bone. And although intermittent fasting is clearly successful for some people in losing weight, it does make me wonder how much of that weight is fat and how much of it is muscle.
How much muscle mass can you afford to lose? And if the answer is none, which is, it should be the answer for most people, by the way, most of us don't have the freedom to lose any lean mass, then you got to make sure you're not restricting protein and that you're thinking about when you can refuel in relation to exercise.
And that's one reason I stopped intermittent fasting. And since stopping, my strength, muscle and performance have increased exponentially. And with more muscle, my body fat naturally decreased and my health improved. By not eating until later in the day, it can put unnecessary stress on our body and disrupt our hormones, which then has a negative effect on our body composition. When I was intermittent fasting, this was what my morning looked like. Shortly after waking, the body experiences its highest natural peak in cortisol, which is the stress hormone. I do my exercise in the morning, so that was more stress on my body. But in this case, it was good stress because it's exercise. I'm a woman in my 40s with fluctuating hormones, so it can cause stress on the body at certain times. And then I wasn't eating until later on in the day. Not only was I not fueled for the exercise, but I also wasn't replenishing after exercise, so that was even more stress on my body. And I wondered why the stubborn body fat wasn't going. It's because high cortisol causes the body to store fat. And there was me thinking that intermittent fasting was good for burning fat, but instead it was actually doing the opposite. And I can see how people who don't get the results they want from intermittent fasting, it could then be tempting to narrow the eating window, going from 16-8 to 18-6, and then maybe even doing OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. And it's likely that that will make things much worse for a lot of people. This next reason is fascinating, something I haven't seen anyone else talk about. When I did my blood and stool tests, one of the results showed in black and white that intermittent fasting wasn't good for me. It's something called ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone, which stimulates appetite. It's the feeling you get when you're hungry. That's ghrelin in action. When I was intermittent fasting, I had this bizarre feeling after eating. Even after a big meal, I'd be full up and hungry at the same time. It was so weird, but this was explained in my test results. It showed that my ghrelin levels were almost double what they should have been, and this excess ghrelin was causing me to still feel hungry even when I was full up, and my ghrelin was high because I was intermittent fasting. Because I wasn't eating until 11 a.m, my body was desperate for fuel and nutrients, so it produced ghrelin to tell me it was hungry and that I should eat. But because I was intermittent fasting, I ignored that feeling, because being hungry is a good thing, isn't it? So then my body produced even more ghrelin, and I ignored that because
Intermittent fasting is good for my health.
over the 7 years of intermittent fasting, my body produced almost twice as much ghrelin that it should have been because of the 16 hours each day that I wasn't eating. It was telling me what it needed, but I ignored it because I thought that that was what I was meant to be feeling.
A new study is asking whether going hungry could be the key to a healthier and even longer life.
And here's some other fascinating facts about ghrelin. High ghrelin levels causes the body to store more body fat, and ghrelin slows down the metabolism. So with me intermittent fasting, not only was I causing my body to produce more ghrelin, it was also storing more fat and slowing down my metabolism. Why is no one else talking about this? I can't be the only one to have experienced this. When I stopped intermittent fasting, it took almost a year for my ghrelin levels to return to normal. 1 year. And now I no longer feel full up and hungry at the same time, and my relationship with food has improved, eating at regular meal times and stopping eating when I'm satiated. Before we continue, I want to say, by me making this video, this isn't me saying that I think intermittent fasting is bad. This is me saying that intermittent fasting isn't good for me based on my health needs. Since I stopped, I follow this eating schedule, and that still allows 12 hours of fasting overnight. I know fasting and intermittent fasting has many health benefits, improving insulin sensitivity, helping reverse diabetes, cell repair, rebooting the immune system. There's the dopamine reset. The list is seriously impressive. But if we're going to talk about health, we also need to include muscle mass in that conversation, and intermittent fasting is counterproductive to building and maintaining muscle mass. Despite the health tests showing some not so good results, it did show that I had healthy cells, no inflammation, good insulin resistance, my organs were healthy, and I had no signs of cancer, which is always a good thing. Fasting and intermittent fasting is said to help get rid of damaged cells, reduce inflammation, assist in reversing diabetes, and heal organs. But my results showed that I didn't need any of these things, so therefore I didn't need to do a fasting protocol. I stopped intermittent fasting 2 years ago and have since had all of the health tests again, and the results showed that I'm in better health now than I was when I was doing it. If for any reason my health changed in the future, then I could use fasting as a health tool. For those wondering if I'm still going to do my extended fasts, because I've done a 5-day fast and a 7-day fast in the past. That rhymed. I'll do a 3-day fast once or twice a year as a mini reset and to get the health benefits. And I think what all this has taught me is that if someone is considering intermittent fasting, it relies on many things. Are you a man, a woman, under 40, over 40? What's your starting weight, body fat, muscle mass? Muscle mass. Intermittent fasting is not a one-size-fits-all, and it's what makes me a little bit mad to hear a lot of influential people raving about intermittent fasting. It's mostly the bros who talk about pretty much the same stuff in a linear way, like we're all the same. Hello, we are not all the same, and just because it's good for some people doesn't mean it's good for everyone. I'm keen to hear what you think about intermittent fasting. What results have you got from it? Let me know in the comments, as I'm sure other people will find it helpful to read about your experience. YouTube thinks you're going to like this video next, so maybe give that a watch.